Well, hello there ladies and gentlemen, I am Unstable Voltage, and I've made this video because I want to talk a little bit about SimCity 5. Now this game has caused quite a bit of outrage, and I feel that everybody really needs to know what's been going on with this. Now the first thing I have to say is, I actually like SimCity. I like the franchise as a whole. I've played all of the different games since the very beginning of the series, and I like the newest game. I do like SimCity, or SimCity 5, or SimCity 2013, whatever it's called. But there have been some problems, and there are still some problems. Some of which are pretty game-breaking. Some of which aren't so bad but have been blown out of proportion. And some just annoying, but I think it's good information to know. So let's get the first thing out of the way. The first thing to mention is a lot of people in the first week, or is now into the second week, were having the issue where they could not play the game. This game requires an always online connection. Now that we will get into in a moment. The main point is, people who had bought this game for the first week were either unable to log in at all, or were facing queues of anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour, if not longer, just to get on. You can only play this game if you can actually connect to the server. Now, this is a very annoying thing for people. I personally experienced it a little bit, not too much. But I experienced it nonetheless. Now, one thing you do have to remember in these situations, there are a lot of games these days that actually require an online connection. And this is one of those things that almost always happens on launch day or launch week. All of the companies that make these games, whether it be EA with this, even Blizzard with World of Warcraft when that was originally released, ArenaNet with Guild Wars 2, whenever there's a game that comes out that requires an online connection, there's nearly always these problems early on. And as annoying as it is, as frustrating as it is, the thing to remember is, it is only a sort of a launch week or a launch day problem. It gets sorted. The number of people that are playing decreases, the number of people that are trying to connect concurrently to the server decreases, and they do optimise and add more servers. Now, I'm not making excuses for these companies, they really should put more insight into it. Is it a case of the companies thinking, well, we're not going to spend a lot of extra money putting in expensive servers if they're not needed, only to have to take them out? Is it better for us just to err on the side of caution, put as few servers in as we think we can get away with, and then increase the capacity as time goes on? Well, that certainly seems to be what it is. EA's excuse, I think we will say, was that they looked at the numbers from beta, which was a closed invite only beta, so clearly it wasn't going to have the same numbers as release. Yet they were unable to tell from their pre-order figures that they were going to have that many users. And they really did drop the ball. Now, they really did a fantastic job over the coming week of adding more servers. But that doesn't change the fact that people who bought the game were unable to play. Also, people who had pre-ordered the game were finding it more difficult to play than people who had just bought the game. This is because EA decided they were going to stagger the release time or the unlock time on the different game codes so that not everybody was trying to connect at the same time. Those people with codes from games they'd pre-ordered were actually left locked until later on. And this was actually causing people who had already bought a pre-order copy to then go and buy another copy just so they could play, which is quite frankly ridiculous. Or ingenious on EA's part, whichever way you want to look at it. But going off track a little bit there, the point I'm making with that is, those early days, those first few weeks, problems happen. They're not always going to be there. In a couple of weeks' time, server capacity is not going to be a problem at all, and people will be able to just start the game and log on and play. Now, I had issues where I was able to get onto specific servers, but my friends were playing on other servers, and those servers were saying they were full. I couldn't even queue for them. A server, essentially, providing it isn't down, has 3 status. It's either available, it's busy, or it's full. If it's busy, you can get in a queue for it. If it's available, you can join it, although sometimes there's still a queue. But if it's full, you can't even get in a queue. Now, the question really is, why is this game always online? Well, there are 2 reasons that EA and Maxis were claiming, and we're going to look at those and decide whether or not they're valid. First of all, part of the implication with the new SimCity game is that it's multiplayer. Now, in the past, all SimCity games have essentially been a single player experience. The idea of the new SimCity game is that all cities take place in a region, and these regions have anywhere between 3 and 16 cities. Now, you can have different players in a region controlling a different city each, or several players can have multiple cities. The idea is that you can actually trade with your neighbours. So you may have one city that is producing coal and selling it to another city that doesn't have any coal, where another city may have an abundance of electricity and may be selling it back to the other city that's producing coal. You also may have one city that has a university, and your city doesn't because your city is too small and you don't have room. This is something else I'll come on to. So a lot of your population goes to your neighbouring city for education, whereas the population from that city might come to you because you have more jobs. Now, I actually like the idea of this. I like the way it works. Even on the older SimCity games, you used to be able to join your cities together and trade various resources, but the way that things like tourism works and visiting another city for education, or visiting another city for work, or even visiting another city for commerce and shopping, that all works really well, and that's a good part of the game. That's brilliant, fantastic. But what if you want to play single player? What if you don't want to play with other people? If you want your SimCity experience to be just like the previous games, where you can play on your own? Well, there's no reason why you can't do that. You basically pick a region, make it private, and you can claim all of the cities in that region and play them on your own. But you still have to be connected to the server. Now, why is this? Well, a lot of people assumed that it was an enforced method of DRM. Now, for anyone that doesn't know what DRM is, it's digital rights management, and it's basically a form of copy protection. It's anti-piracy. For years, games have had various serial keys or the need to have the disk in the drive to be able to play them, but there have always been ways around these. Particularly now where we're in an age where most things are digital download, so there is no CD to put in the drive. You can have a CD key, but hackers do come along and crack these programs so that they can run on a fraudulent key, essentially. What DRM means is that because you have to be connected to the server to play, if you have a dodgy serial key or a cracked copy, you essentially cannot connect to the server and cannot play. Now, EA was saying that essentially it wasn't DRM. This was what they were trying to say. It wasn't DRM, and the only reason you had to be connected to the server is A, for the multiplayer aspect, it was required for that, but more importantly, that a lot of the simulation is actually done on their servers. So they're saying that your computer, when it's playing the game, actually sends a lot of the data to their servers, which does the simulation and the number crunching and sends the result back to your computer. So essentially, there is no way you could play this game offline. Even if someone was able to manage to crack the game so that it didn't connect to the internet, you wouldn't be able to play because their servers is doing some of the work. Well, this is another one of those things that apparently isn't true. As of to date, there have been several people that have managed to get into the program, enable debug modes, and essentially run the game in offline mode. Now, it is certainly true there are things that it does have to be connected to the internet for. If you want to play with other people in your region, yes, obviously, of course you need to be connected to the internet. And things like trading resources and populations with the other cities, of course that's all done online. But you can play your city in an offline state. Now normally, there's a 20-minute window for this, which a lot of people don't know about. If your connection drops for under 20 minutes and then reconnects, you'll never know it happened. Because what the game actually does is it saves locally onto your computer, and then as soon as it re-establishes a connection to the origin servers, it will then upload your city and synchronise it with the one on the server. But people have actually managed to crack it, and there's videos on the internet, of course not showing you how to do such things, because I'm not suggesting that they should be done, but the point is it proves that the game can run for hours and hours without being connected to the server, which clearly implies that there's no or little number crunching done at the EA end on the server, and it's all done locally on your computer, apart from, of course, the interaction between the cities. So this is probably one of the biggest things that's caused the outrage. So first of all, there was the issue of not being able to connect because of the servers, but as I said, it's one of those things that happens with a lot of games early on in its life. The second thing is the fact that this is essentially forced DRM that has a thin veil over the top of, well, the game needs to connect to our servers for it to work properly. It doesn't. It's been proven that it doesn't, which I think on EA's part is a pretty bad move. If you want to put in forced DRM in your game, fine. It's very anti-consumer, it's very annoying, but at least be honest about it. Say, yes, it has to be connected online, it requires an always online connection because it's DRM. And yeah, you'll still annoy people, but at least they won't feel that they've been lied to. Now that aside, even if you've got a good internet connection, even if you can connect to the servers, because in a couple of weeks the servers are going to be stable, there's going to be plenty of space for everyone to get on, and there's still problems. Not caused by the server. In its current state, there are a lot of issues with the game. Either game-breaking bugs or things just not working in the way they're intended. And there are quite a few things in the game that just we were really lied to in the way that things work. I mean, one of the annoying things is the simulation itself. It's been discovered recently that population numbers are artificially boosted. So when your city says you have 400,000 population, you probably only have somewhere close to 60,000, and it just literally pulls this number out of thin air to determine how many people you've got in your city. One of the other major concerns for a lot of people, including myself, is the cities are very small. They're only 2 kilometres square. Now again, I understand partially why this has been done. The idea is you're not supposed to be able to fit everything in your city. There just isn't room. You have to work with your neighbouring cities because you won't be able to have all of the industry and all of the mining and all of the tourism and all of the education. So your neighbour might have to deal with the education, you might have to deal with the mining, and your other neighbour might have to deal with the tourism. So I can understand why they've done that, but it does feel very constricted. On top of that though, there are other parts of the simulation that just don't work. For example, you can have a city that is purely residential. No industry, no commerce at all. Again, have a look on YouTube. There's a video been posted. It's a 10-minute video. It's a time lapse down from about 2.5 hours, where someone has managed to create I think it's a 200,000 population city that is just residential. It's literally a square grid, residential housing, few parks and amphitheatres, and the utilities such as health, electricity, water and things like that, and the city continues to grow. Of course, even though it says there's 200,000 people in the city, there's only actually 20,000 people in the city. The way that vehicles and the actual Sims, the people in your city, move around, again, is a very, very strange simulation. Instead of one person having a job which they travel to every day, and then they travel back from that job to their house every day, they just travel to the first available job and the first available house. So come 7 o'clock in the morning, when all of your Sims go to work, everyone gets in their car, drives down the street, the first job that they come to that doesn't have anyone in it, they get out and get in, that's their job. And then at 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, when your Sims come back from work, they jump in their cars, they drive to the residential area, first empty house they come to, they go into it, that's their house. Then tomorrow morning, they'll go to a different job and come back to a different house. So a bit of lazy programming. I can understand to a degree why things like this are done, because it's less tax on the system and it's very, very difficult to keep track of hundreds of thousands of individual people and where they're going to. But again, this isn't what was promised to us when we were initially told what the game was going to do. But there are also a few other bugs, and I'm actually looking at the moment at the list that's been compiled on the EA forums. Now, it's by no means a comprehensive list and it keeps getting added to all the time, but I'm just having a look down there now, and what I can see is already, well, probably 2 pages long. And I'm just going to pick on some of the ones here that are really annoying to the point where they're game breaking. So the very first one on the list, water tables not replenishing from rainfall. Now this one is a very game breaking one, because at the end of the day you've got very limited room where you can put down your water plants and your water towers, and once the water beneath them has been used, the only option you have is to move them to a new area. Now this is made even more difficult by the fact that the cities are so small. You've got very little room to move things around without having to destroy big blocks of your city, because the placeable structures like power plants and water plants are so big, you'd have to take out maybe 3 or 4 blocks of flats or skyscrapers just to be able to put one in. And what is supposed to happen is that when you get rainfall, it's supposed to replenish the water table and top the water back up. Currently that's not working. You get to a point where you essentially run out of water in your city. And then of course with no water, people start to leave. The very second item on the list is the service AI. So we're talking about the police cars and the ambulances and the fire trucks. The AI is particularly bad. It doesn't seem to matter how many fire trucks you have in a city, they will literally all go to the same fire. You can have 10 fire trucks and 10 fires, and all 10 fire trucks will go to one fire, leaving the other 9 to burn down. This happens constantly. Not only that, fire trucks and ambulances will chase each other around in a never-ending circle. They get stuck in traffic. They make no attempt to sort of get ahead of the traffic. They will follow a trash cart around and stop behind it and get stuck where they're going on the road for hours. Buses are the same. They all follow each other around in a never-ending conga line. And I think a lot of this comes down to the way that traffic is implemented. Again, more videos you can find on YouTube. The fact that the traffic will always go to the shortest, most direct route and not the quickest, less congested route. So you can have 2 areas that are joined up by a single track dirt road, and then a few metres up the road joined by a massive highway. And all of the traffic will take the congested dirt road even if it backs all the way up the highway. They do not have the complex AI to go a few metres up the road and take the wider, uncongested road. And this causes all sorts of traffic problems in your city, to the point where it's better to have as few roads as possible. Now, another issue that you have, which is one of the things that's listed here, is that unlike in the old games where you had pipes under the ground to carry the water and you had your pylons and power lines over the ground to carry the electricity, in this new SimCity the road network carries all the infrastructure for the water and the power. And the power and water essentially radiates out from the power station or from the water plant to all of your buildings in the city. The problem is, it takes an awful long time to get there. And if you've got your power plant in one corner of the city and you've got your water plant in a corner of the city, by the time the power and the water gets to the other end of the city, it almost dissipated. And this is quite ridiculous because you can have a massive surplus or a massive excess of water and electricity, but you're still getting houses that aren't getting that water and electricity. And it doesn't matter if you build more power plants or you increase the capacity of a power plant. The only way you can really do it is to start destroying roads, destroying parts of the city, or build another power plant closer to the houses, which again means you're taking up more of that valuable space by putting in a redundant power plant. Gifting credits to other cities. Now this is one that a few friends of mine have had problems with, because you can actually send in-game money, simoleons, from one city to another, but sometimes the server doesn't sync up and the other person doesn't get the money, and that money just disappears into the ether. It's gone. This also could be related to the problems people have been having with server rollbacks. There have been many people who have found that their game either hasn't saved, so they log out, and when they come back in, all their progress since the last play session has been lost, or even in some cases rollbacks where people have logged in and found that their city's actually rolled back several days, sometimes even to the point of their city's completely gone, it's lost, it's been completely deleted. So yeah, there are a lot of issues with server syncing, but again, hopefully those issues will be sorted out when there's better server stability. Trade centres won't always export. Now this is a problem. Trade centres, trade depots are a very good way of making additional money for your city, and you need somewhere, if you're mining coal or ore, plastics and things from your recycling centre, to ship them out. You essentially produce these goods, you ship them out and sell them for money. You get to a point though where the trade centres just stop working, they won't export, so your trade centre fills up, you're no longer getting the income from them, although you're still paying the maintenance charges on the building, and your mines and your factories that are producing the things, they grind to a halt as well, because therefore they've got nowhere to ship their goods to. So again, that's a very game breaking bug. Hazmat fire trucks not responding to hazmat fires, you know, basic things that should work. Let's have a look, what else have we got here? Infinite demand for medium wealth residents. This is something I've seen, no matter how much you build, it keeps popping up all the time. Sims move in and don't work and run out of money even though jobs are available. This is another thing. You know, I've seen many bugs that are along the same lines. One of the ones that I've been having personally is I keep getting told that my factories can't find enough higher education workers. Yet I've got, 3-4 different schools, a community college and a university, and they can't find educated workers, and the residential has no demand. So I've obviously got a high enough population. What else have we got down here? So we've got the likes of traffic congestion backs up sewage, which is another issue that you have. Because as I said before, the roads actually carry the infrastructure for the water and the power and the sewage. It seems that when the roads are actually congested with traffic, that actually slows down the transfer of power and water and the sewage outlet, which again is another completely ridiculous thing. So while at the end of the day some of these are more game breaking than others, there are all things that really, I say, should be fixed. They are problems that shouldn't have been there in the first place. Now I can understand that there hasn't been an awful lot of attention given to these bugs at the moment, because the majority of what Maxis and EA are trying to do is sort out the stability issues. They want to make sure that everyone can actually log into the game and play the game, and people aren't getting their cities deleted and those sort of problems. Now I can understand that. Now, as much as I've been having fun with the game, I've got a couple of cities that have now got to the point where my water and power isn't getting to where it needs to go, and I'm not making money from my trade depots and I can't ship my goods, to the point where I've now just stopped playing it because I want them to fix these issues. So, to summarise up what we've got here, it is a good game. It has the makings and the potential of being a great game. Now, the reason that it's been getting a lot of bad reviews from people, a lot of it was initial backlash from launch day. If you look on places like Amazon and Metacritic, there are thousands and thousands of one-star reviews, and that is primarily the flood of people that tried to play the game on day 1 or day 2, couldn't connect to the servers, and basically in a rage just went and gave the product a 1-star review. Do I blame these people? No. Some of these people paid up to $80 for the deluxe edition. You buy a game which is, for all intents and purposes, a single player game, and you can only play it when the servers are up. And the servers are down for no good reason, other than EA made a mistake with numbers. So, yeah, I can perfectly understand and sympathise why people were annoyed with that, but again, those problems will subside. They're not going to be around after a few weeks, hopefully, touch wood. They will actually get those issues sorted. And if you actually look at the people that have reviewed the game on its merits, as opposed to the server catastrophe, it did quite favourably. It had good reviews. The game essentially works well. Now, how many hours these reviewers actually put into the game? Did they get far enough through to experience the sort of game-breaking bugs later on? Or maybe a lot of these reviews were done using beta code when the servers were a little more stable, and maybe these issues didn't exist as much. Who knows? We'll probably never know, or very difficult to tell. But what I would say is, if you are a fan of the SimCity series, you'll probably like this game. The vast majority of people that I've spoken to or heard from that are SimCity fans have enjoyed playing it. And I've enjoyed it. I did have my reservations at the start. I wasn't worried about the server issue because, to be honest, I was expecting it. And my main concern was the cities being too small, which, if I'm perfectly honest, still does annoy me a little bit. I'd like a bit more room to build. That's what I like to do. But saying that, I find it's a bit of a challenge when you can, or when you have to be able to squeeze everything into the small little plot that you're given. Saying that, because of some of these game-breaking bugs, like the fact you can build a massive city that's completely residential, it does kind of take away a little bit of that challenge, and that's why I'm not playing it at the moment, because I want these bugs to be fixed. So what I would say to people, if you haven't got it already, but you are a SimCity fan, you probably will like it, but you might want to wait a little while, at least a couple of weeks. Even EA are aware of this, to the fact where they've contacted the likes of Amazon and a lot of their other distributors, and have actually told them to stop advertising it. You can still buy it from most of these places, it's still on the shelves, they're still selling it, but their advertising campaign, their promotional stuff, has all but disappeared. They've taken down all of their banners from websites. They're just literally trying to slow the influx of people at the moment, and it's probably a good thing. 1, for server stability, and 2, it'll give them time to sort some of these bugs out, and I think people will have a much better experience. They'll be much happier with it if they get the game and their first experience is being able to log straight in, play a city, and have that first city work as it's intended to work. Apart from that, what else is there to say about it? The game looks absolutely fantastic. You know, it's a whole decade since the previous SimCity, since SimCity 4. They've done some amazing things with the visuals engine. It does look absolutely brilliant. Not much to say about the sound. You know, at the end of the day, it's a Maxis game. It's sort of you know, mellowing piano music and all of the characters speaking Simlish. So if you've played The Sims or any of the Sims games really, you know what to expect on that score. But yeah, I generally these days don't judge games that much by graphics and sound and things like that, because graphics and sound does not a good game make. But at the end of the day, people are concerned about that sort of thing. You've seen screenshots of it, you've seen videos of it, you've seen this video of it. It's a nice looking game. It's just a shame that there are a few bits and pieces that could do with a bit of a polish to get working. So, thanks for watching. I hope I've given you some information. Like I said, it is unfair that EA have been given a lot of bad press. They have brought most of it upon themselves with this whole always online and DRM thing, because it does certainly appear that they haven't been honest with us. But at the end of the day, Maxis have to be commended for making a very good game. It does have its issues, it does need fixing here and there, but once that's sorted, then it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So, yeah. Hold off for now if you haven't got it already. If you have got it, hopefully within the next week or two, most of these problems will be sorted. So, thanks for watching. I know I've taken up about half an hour of your time, but it is appreciated, and hopefully this has been helpful to you. If you've enjoyed this and you found it useful, please subscribe to my channel, and I will endeavour to keep certain news items coming and sort of public service announcements where I can. So once again, thank you for your time, and I will see you on the next video.